Hello, welcome to another episode of the Non-League Network podcast. This is Beyond the Final Whistle, and my name's Pat. I'm your host every single time. This time we've got an absolute treat for you. We've got Matt Jarvis with us. Matt is someone that I have watched on TV. I'm so lucky doing this job. I've also know that Matt is from a local team, not originally, but he played for Gillingham, and he made all his way up to playing for England under Capello, I think. We're going to be talking to Matt about life within football, life transitioning outside of football, what he's doing now, some of the people that he's met. We've had a bit of a chat already, and I think Matt and I could talk for hours. This is going to be a good laugh. Matt, welcome. Lovely to have you here, mate.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, looking forward to it.
It's going to be an experience, right? Strap in for the next half an hour, 40 minutes. I have ADHD, so my brain goes in about 15 different directions. And looking at all the things you're doing now, I might have to ask you a question saying, how do you control all of those different things? So just for the people who are young enough not to remember you, although you've only just stopped playing a few, like maybe, what, 5-6 years ago, was it?
Yeah, coming up to 5 years. Yeah, coming up to 5 years. Yeah, I
Okay.
actually retired at 35 on my birthday, which means, yes, you know, so next month I actually turn 40. So looking forward to it. I don't care about the number. It's all
Life
good.
starts at 40. I mean, to be honest, life starts at 50 for me. I'm like, yeah, sod it. Let's just keep going. Although the injuries we're going to talk about as well and what life is all about.
Yes.
So let's bring you back. We're going to have a bit of an intro for people. You are Matt Jarvis, the professional footballer and who's had a lifetime within the football. We say a lifetime, even though, like you say, you stopped at 35. But when you were 17, you started at Gills. And one of the things I'm particularly interested in is that starting in the young team as a young player, and then you've got a manager, as you mentioned, you've got Hess. Hello, Andy Hesselthaler, someone that I'm very interested in talking to. He was your manager, and he was also your player. So he was a player manager. How was that relationship? How was that for you?
Well, look, I want to check very quickly, briefly say before. So I was actually at Millwall for 7 years, from 9 till 16, and I actually
Yeah,
got released at 16. Got told I wasn't good enough, so I then went on trial to Gillingham and got my opportunity that way. So I've gone from being released at 16 to 17. I was actually playing in the first team in the Championship under Hess, who, as you quite rightly, he's a legend. He gave me my debut, gave me my first contract. So big shout out to Andy Hessenthaler.
mate.
But
Being released at
for
16 didn't stop you then.
being released at 16 to then playing in the Championship, not just
Yeah.
in the Championship, in the first team, was at 17 was absolutely incredible. And that's just, football's about opinions, but confidence plays a massive part of it. And I had a big dent in that, and then it got rebuilt at Gillingham. And yeah, I've got nothing but love for Gills and all the Gills fans. It was an amazing time for me. But as you say, my first ever experience of being in a first team, I had a player manager, which is very rare, very rare. So, although he was the manager, he was still playing alongside me in the team. So it was a very strange, but he was incredibly fit. Pre-season, back in the day used to be he just set off, right, stay with me, and you try and keep up with him because he was ridiculously fit. But he did all the tactics, did everything on the training field, but then was still the manager
Yeah.
and still played. So that was a weird concept to start with, and then obviously later on he actually got sacked as the manager, but then was still the player. So I was still only ever knew him as Gaffer. So then when there was a new manager, it was Gaffer and Gaffer, because I couldn't not call Hess Gaffer. I couldn't call him Hess. He was Gaffer. I still, whenever I see him now, I still call him Gaffer because he is to me.
Oh, I love that. You know that I've spoken to a number of ex players and actually people I've played with as well. We do have that weird relationship with people who were our gaffer, and they're still going to be like that. I know everyone when they talk about Sir Alex at Man United, they're having the chat and they go, the gaffer. That's what it's going to be for them. And there are some that are going to mark you throughout your career. Listen, at 16, a lot of the people who listen to these podcasts, they might think if they get released, that's it. That's the end. I don't know what I'm going to do now. where do I turn to? And there are some good stories. I mean, Ian Wright's one of those famous ones when he actually, ended up going and then was working in various places. He finally got a chance to actually be looked at. And I think in his case, he didn't have the must fare to make it home. I think he actually had to ask someone to help him get back to his home. So you're 17 years old. You're there in the first team. You're making your way. I think you had about 100 apps playing for Gills. Is that about right?
It's about 110, 100 something like that. Yeah.
So they say after you've done something 100 times, whether it's a podcast, whether it's like being in a job or doing it 100 times, you then only then start getting to that level where you are experienced enough to know exactly what you're doing, and then you move from there to, was it Wolves next?
Yeah, Wolves. Big Mick
Big
McCarthy. Huge. Yeah, I mean, for me, I was, I'd done really well at Gills, and I had quite a few different options at the time. I met Mick McCarthy, and that was the only place I was ever going to go after that. Massively influential in my whole career. Hess was phenomenal for me, and then I go from Hess to Mick McCarthy, and him and his team with Terry Connor as the assistant manager. You had Taff as well before Terry Connor. You then had Tony Daly, who's my fitness coach, who was ex-England, Aston Villa, Wolves, like winger, who was, for me, it was perfect. So he worked with me. So everything about the team he set up was phenomenal. But as you say, it was a step up. There's a huge club. And again, for me, expectations, I'd done really well at Gills. Everyone at Gills knew who I was, knew what I was about. Then going to Wolves, you have to restart yourself again and then prove everyone what you're about again. And which, is something that I've always had to do my whole career. But equally, I actually got injured in pre-season. So I missed the first 3 months of the season for Wolves. And that was again, devastating for me, because you want to go to a club, you want to prove yourself straight away, but then I got injured. But this is when we talk about man management is, Mick McCarthy, he pulled me aside and was like, look, I've been in your position when I got my big move to Celtic. I missed the first 4 months. I was injured. So I know what you're going through. Just don't worry about it. Get yourself fit. Just concentrate, get yourself fit. When you are fit, don't rush it. Do it properly. When you are fit, that's when you can show everyone what you're about, and you will be. And it did take a big, little bit of weight off my shoulders for Mick being able to say that to me. So that was huge. And then when I did get fit, I hit the ground running, and it was an amazing 5 years at Wolves.
Mate, the man management there is brilliant from what you're saying about Mick McCarthy, and anyone is not everyone. There are some who had some clashes with him, particularly in the Ireland setup. But it sounds like he was the right kind of person for you at that time as well. And then as far as I'm concerned, you are like a proper winger. So if you're going to describe a proper winger, Matt Jarvis, proper winger. Anyone who doesn't know, we're not going to talk about the actual games. We're not going to talk about what Matt has done in particular matches. Go and watch him on some of the YouTubes. Proper winger, cracking crosses, cracking work going on there. And to have someone like to have the setup that you had makes a lot of sense going on there. Then the dream kind of follows on. So you're meeting people that I know. I mean, Jody Craddock, shouts out to Jody, cracking person. I think you said to me before the podcast, 5 or 6 years you played with him.
Yeah, about 5 years at Wolves. Yeah, incredible guy. He was the captain as well. Between him and Carl Henry really were the captains. A phenomenal guy. He actually, if you can see that painting on the wall, he did that as a one-off piece. I got him to do. What an incredible artist he is as well. I still speak to Jody. He's just one of the nice guys that you meet in football. They're not all nice guys, but Jody is definitely one of them. And credit to him. He was excellent, and what he brought to us as a team as well. He just had that experience, that just that work, that graft that he had to prove himself every day and every year, and we were exactly the same. And he gave that bit to us, and everything with Jody is amazing.
Yeah, cracking bloke. And while you were there, obviously you start hitting that rich vein of form, getting a little bit of attention. The way that you're playing, I mean, wingers for England has not always been the easiest position to fill, because depending on what kind of structure you're playing or what kind of a strategy you got going on, it was Capello, I think, who then went, let's have a look at this fella.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the preliminary squads for quite a few camps, I suppose, but never didn't make the actual 23-man squad. So it was Fabio Capello that then did take the plunge, I suppose, and brought me in. And what an unbelievable experience! That team. John Terry's the captain. You had Wayne Rooney. You had Frank Lampard. Oh, Gerrard was injured. He was the one that was actually injured, so he wasn't there. But for me, if you look at that squad and you look at the wingers that were in there, they're all playing top six. They're all playing top six. I was fighting relegation with Wolves at the time.
Yeah.
So for me to able to get into the England squad, we had 2 games. It was Wales away and then Ghana at home, and I made my debut. I was at Wembley in front of 88,000 people at Wembley. I could have been anywhere in the world, but I was at Wembley. All my family were there. All my friends were there. The amount of Gills fans that were there, Wolves fans that were there, and then moving on, when I moved on, West Ham fans that were there, Norwich fans that were there. There was Woking fans that were there. There's so many Walsall fans. There was so many people that actually remember that, because for me, it's the pinnacle of playing football. It's the pinnacle is to play for your country, and I was able to do that.
Yeah,
so
mate.
Phenomenal experience.
So congratulations. Just out of interest, do you actually get an England cap?
I've got it up here. Actually, I would go and get it. It's just up there. I've got. So if you in the background now, I've got my shirt that I wore in the game, signed by all of the England boys, and then I've got Asamoah Gyan's shirt, who scored in the game. So I've got that framed. I've actually got the boots that I wore in the game. They're over there. They've still got the grass on for Wembley. I didn't wear them again. And
Brilliant.
I've got my England cap as well. So.
And you replaced Jack Wilshere, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Jack Wilshere came off. I came on.
Yeah,
just
decent player. He was definitely like injury crazy, isn't it? I mean, Jack's career would have been completely different if the injuries didn't come in.
Yeah, he was phenomenal, wasn't he? Technically incredible, and what he was doing at the age he was doing it was out of this world, really. But I think what I was doing at that age, it wasn't the same. So he was absolutely tearing it up against Barcelona. I was in the Championship or League One, so at that particular time. So phenomenal player, and yeah, obviously injuries are part and parcel with the game. But it's I know from my own experience, having a torrid time of injury towards the end of my career, 4 operations in 3 years. It's awful, and there's nothing you can do about it. And people class you as injury prone, or they say, oh, this and that, but there's nothing you can do. You give absolutely everything to get yourself on the pitch, and sometimes it's just not meant to be.
Yeah, that's one of those things. I think you and I were discussing injuries that we have got, and I mean, obviously, you were playing it on a regular basis with a super fit body, and having the kind of the good training and the good approach to it, and the nutrition and everything that you needed, and you'd still get injured. So imagine if you're an overweight, a bit useless winger like myself, you're always going to get injured. So you've got Wills. You've got. Let's move on. You've then got. You then went off to a little club in London, doing quite well, not to go down at the moment. Little West Ham. I say little West Ham. I'm saying that because you're also you're an ambassador for West Ham now, aren't you?
Yeah, so obviously since finishing, I've gone back and I'm an ambassador. So I do a lot of either corporate work or I'm there at most home games doing the hospitality stuff. I'm doing like other trips and anything really that the foundation work, and I'm the ambassador for the DSA, which is the Disabled Supporters Association. So I do a lot in and around for the club. But for me, when I signed there, I was club record signing at the time. So there's a hell of a lot of pressure going into playing for a club like West Ham. So incredible. I had a really good time there. They just won the playoffs to get back to the Premier League. So I joined then, and in our first season we finished 10th. And then I think it was 10th, 13th, 12th, something like that in the first 3 seasons for a promoted side, which if you think about it now is crazy, really. Yeah. So yeah, an amazing, 4 or 5 years
Who
at
was
West Ham.
who was your gaffer there?
Big Sam Allardyce.
There we
Yeah,
go.
I've had some managers, to be
Yeah.
fair.
I mean, completely different personalities.
All very different. But Sam was, how can I describe him? He was such an old school manager, with regards to the work on the training field and that sort of side of things. But he was way beyond his years with regards to the sports science and the statistics. And just to give you a very very short step, when I first signed, I went into the meeting, and he'd basically, him and his team had come to, and our plan was to finish 10th in the Premier League. So he'd gone back and he's done research. So since the Premier League has started, to finish 10th, you needed this many wins, this many losses, this many draws. That's this many goals scored, this many's conceded. And he got all of these stats together, and then he broke the season up into like 8 game segments. So our first 8 games, we had a reasonable fixture list. So we wanted 10 points. We actually got 14. The second 8, we were thinking we would get 8, we got 6, stuff like that. So he broke it up. So the psychological side of things, if you were on a bad run, it might be over 2 of the 8 game segments, which you review and they're gone, and then you start this one. So he was very new on that side of things, and he loved the stats and statistics, but he also had the very old school like mentality as well. So a very mixed.
I
But
love that.
equally for me, it was another. He signed me, wanted me. So, it was another experience, just like Mick McCarthy.
I think when you're looking at a manager and what they bring to it, head coach, manager, whatever you want to call them, when they come into it and they actually break down a season and they look at it in terms of much more manageable chunks and much more realistic, because sometimes you look at it and go, yeah, well, we need to get X amount of wins from the next 5 games, and you're playing Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, and you'd be like, it's just not going to happen. So let's get what we can from those ones. So yeah, to actually hear you saying that about Sam, that was way beyond what I thought he was doing then.
Yeah, well, if you look back, if he was here now as well, like if he was managing the Prem now, we were doing everything that Arsenal were doing with set plays. That's what we did every single week. We would practice set plays at our corners, but we weren't just doing corners, free kicks. We were doing free kicks from our own half, stuff like that. He was in hugely on set pieces. So, that's he always says if he had Aladicio, on his, that would be his surname, people would give him a bit more respect.
That's fair enough. I think you'd also be a cracking laugh as well, from what I've seen. So
I cannot comment on any trips that we have been on.
Nothing happened. Honestly, nothing happened. Now, yeah, another thing that obviously we're getting towards the end of your, well, not the end of your career yet, but after West Ham, we've then got, did you say Sutton?
Norwich. I went to Norwich.
Norwich first.
I went Norwich for 4 years. I did the first year. We're in the Premier League. I unfortunately, halfway through, I got injured. I block tackled Yaya Toure, which is a terrible decision. I don't know why I did that, which hurt my knee. And then I played the rest of the season with my knee really not great. I then had all these injections during the season to get through. In the summer, I had more injections all the way through the summer. I come back pre-season and my knee was killing me. I ended up having to have surgery, like exploratory surgery, I suppose it was called. Went in and then they found that my medial wasn't actually attached properly. So I had to have my medial pinned back on, and then I got myself back fit. And then my first training session, I cut inside and shot, and someone blocked it and I smashed my ankle up. And then I had more injections to keep me going. The manager changed. Alex Neil got sacked. There was a bit of sort of not really knowing what was going on. I had more and more injections. I couldn't get myself fit. Had more surgery on my ankle, which they found that actually, if you look at the cartilage on a scan, it was all red and inflamed. But when they went in, as they touched it, it all fell off. So I had to have what's called a microfracture, where they drill holes in the bone and that bleeds and then that sets, and that's my fibrous tissue. So I had an absolute nightmare, and that was that went on. And then because I'd had them 2 surgeries, I then picked up what's called IT band friction syndrome, which is where the IT band on the outside of your knee because I was starting to walk different, run different, my mechanics had changed. I then picked this up, and then the club were like, well, we're not going to leave it like we've done the other two. We'll go straight in for surgery. So I had more surgery. And then I finally, after about 2.5 years, got myself back fit. I then went on loan to Walsall for 10 games, which was phenomenal for me. I'd had it was, you say football's like amazing, everything like that. That was the worst part of my whole life, let alone football career. Then 2.5 years, it was awful, like awful. But the glee and the delight that I had when I went on loan to Walsall and playing in then games was just incredible. But I then hurt my ankle again, and then I had to have more surgery on my ankle. So after that, my contract at Norwich had finished, and then that's when I had a few different offers, but I decided for my own well-being, because I'd actually been told by the specialist to retire about a year and a half before. I said no. I got Norwich offered me a year's money to leave. I said no. So I then decided I got the opportunity to speak to a guy called Martin Tyler, who I had just started to do some media work. So I was doing lots of stuff I did some stuff with Sky, doing some radio, and then I got a call from Martin. I was thinking, wow, what's he want me to do at Sky? And he said, oh, I don't know if you know, but I'm the assistant manager at Woking. I was like, no, I did not know that. But then he wanted me to come down and play because I'm actually local to Woking. I grew up in Guildford, so it wasn't too far. And so I actually went down and played in a friendly against QPR 23s. I played in a friendly, and after it, I was like, do you know what? This is just perfect for me. I've missed out on a lot in the last few years with my family. My son was born, my wife was pregnant, so I decided to sign for Woking, which was incredible.
Yeah, my God. Obviously, we're going to talk about injuries. Listen, when you've got a career like yours, and you've played at the various different levels, all the way up to England, and you've put your body through it, and you've had different managers that you've got influence with, different trainers, different approaches, and even with all of that, you then got the freak injuries, and then the injuries that come from overcompensating, as you mentioned. That's going to take a toll on your body, and to then be able to play when, like you were playing at Woking, that's when you're able to play it for you, and you're not playing it. You have nothing to prove at that point. You're very much just playing it for you. So it would have been a very different experience. We see that a lot in the non-league. We see the players coming through and trying to make their way up to whatever level they're going to end up at. And I've met some amazing people who've said to me, every player has a level. The ones who think they need to get further, they can push themselves, but they're never going to be, if they are level at this level, they're not necessarily going to achieve. And to say I've never made it is such a terrible situation and feeling to have. Now, you can't do that. You can say, I did make it. Mentality-wise, you could say, well, I should have had 50 caps. But actually, you sound so happy with your one cap because that's amazing where you got to. When by the time you get to Woking, you're going, this is it. I want to be doing this for fun. What was Woking like as a club for you going into that? Did you see anything in terms of the professional side of it, the support, the background staff, all of that element?
You are, look, you say what I mean, and it was for me. It was about enjoyment because I'd gone through hell and back to get myself back fit. So it was about enjoyment. But when you say it's just about, it wasn't. You have to prove yourself. You're not just Matt Jarvis who plays for Woking. I was England international. People I was coming up against were wanting to have the best game against me because I was ex-England international. So I had that every single game. As far as my experience at Woking, the people were phenomenal. It was part-time at that time when I was there. The biggest problem I had was my first game, I came off the bench because it was my first game I hadn't played. So I came off the bench for the last 30 minutes. It was 0-0 when I came on. I scored with my second touch, and then I got an assist and we won 2-0. So I played 30 minutes, got a goal and an assist, thinking this is great. My second game, I've come from the hospital. My daughter had just been born. So I came straight to the game, played the last half an hour, got another assist. So I played 60 minutes, 1 goal, 2 assists, thinking, what a great decision this was. This is great. And then COVID hit. And that was it.
Yes.
Season done, everything done. And it was a disaster for everyone, obviously. But for a National League club, and especially Woking, which was part-time, it was a disaster. The players, I have to say, the players especially were, some of them had other jobs they would come to, so we were only trained in the evenings, and the commitment levels were first class. You could not say anything bad about their commitment. They were coming to training, the work ethic, everything about it was first class. So for me, I had it was never in my mind that I wasn't going to re-sign. So I re-signed for the following year. That's a bit different when you're at a National League club. It was still part-time. COVID, it was a bit of a funny time, really, with everything. There was no fans at the games, which is, for me, that's what it's all about. I love that, that entertaining factor of feeling the crowd doing, and that was everything for me, as well. So it was a difficult time, but I can never say anything bad about Woking, and the staff, the players, the community. Everything was first class, and I really enjoyed it. I wish it was like another time, because obviously with COVID it was all a bit weird, and then I think we ended up the season, because there was no relegations. So towards the end of the season, it not necessarily didn't matter, but we played in the semi-final of a cup, and if we won, we're at Wembley. We lost, and then that end of that season, I actually got furloughed. So it was a bit, it was a bit of a weird one, to finish. But for me, I'm so pleased that I played there, and I really enjoyed it. And I just decided that on my birthday, I turned 35. I was like, yeah, that's probably enough for me. My body is saying no. My head's saying yes, keep playing. My body is definitely saying no. And it was definitely the right time.
We're going to have a look at what you're doing now, but to anyone at Woking, and actually there's someone in the non-league network setup who was recently involved in Woking. They've just had a new manager come in.
Yeah, so Jermaine Defoe's manager there. Yeah. So
Jermaine.
I've been back quite a few times. I'm still speaking to the new owner. I speak to quite a lot of people there, because I went and did my VSI CEO of a sports organisation course. So I was looking to be involved in some capacity, but it hasn't happened at the moment. But yeah, it's a fantastic club. Jermaine's gone in there. He's started really well. It is full time now. Everything is there. It's a great club. And obviously they haven't managed to get in the league as yet. So that's everyone's plan, and hopefully they can do it.
I mean, it is a cracking club, and actually, I'm probably going to meet you up there, because it's one of those clubs that, for some reason, just keeps coming up. And there are so many non-league clubs, but it's one of those that I go, do you know what? I'm going to have to get involved in this. I'm going to have to go and have a look at how that setup works. Part of the job. Matt, you now are looking at the transition, and that's something that matters hugely. And thank you so much for sharing so much with us, because it means a lot to anyone within the non-league setup to have someone like yourself and giving your life and in some cases your advice. When you get to that period where you're 35 and you go, okay, it might be the time. Doctors have told me I should have given up. I didn't listen. I didn't give up when I was at the top, although still playing, you're still having to challenge yourself, and I get it. And also, for me, non-league football is actually still really good standard. Really good.
Yeah.
And then you've got COVID hitting, which is just, at that point, I remember pretty much everyone going, is this our new normal? We didn't know how long that was going to last, or we don't know. So your transition is different to the transition that I've seen with other people, like Jody, for example. So what you're doing now is you've got Apex Golf, you've got your mentor at Wolves, you're also an ambassador at West Ham. I've got to look at my list, because you're an ambassador. Are you still an ambassador for the Prince's Trust?
Yeah, British Heart Foundation, Prince's Trust.
And then Advisor Outlook.
Yeah, so I'm an advisor to a sports psychology app called Unlock, which is phenomenal. Really helping people all the way up, whatever age or whatever level you are, just because that now is acceptable. I think people are much more open to really looking into the psychology of it. And for me, I say this to my players that I mentor, whether that's at Wolves or when on my own individual players, it's the 1%. If you can do 1% better for yourself every day, then 1% adds up. Over however long you're wanting, you can always eke out something. I look back at my career, I couldn't have given any more. Like, I genuinely, I can hold my head up and I can look back and think, it's not that I can go, oh, if only I did this. I couldn't have done any more. I genuinely couldn't. I gave it absolutely everything. So that's quite a nice place for me to sit. And so when I speak to my players, it's about what can you do every single day to be the best that you can be.
Yeah,
That's it. And them little 1% are huge.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. Plus, I mean, we'll get to the players and how you can how they can learn from you as well, and what it is that you've got in there for the players coming through. One of the things that you and I were chatting about is when you transition out of it and you then find yourself going, oh shit. And the door is now no longer the door to the gaffer. It's no longer the door to the physios and the nutritionists and anyone, whether you're within a professional setup or even a semi-pro or maybe even more amateurish. You've got a team behind you. A volunteer team is still a team, and then suddenly you're working out of that and you're going towards various different things. One of the things you mentioned is tell me what it is that you would say in your first frame. Is it laps? I think you said that you work with. So what
Yeah.
happens after a professional footballer gives up football?
Yeah, so I work for a company called LAPS, Life After Professional Sport. They do workshops which run alongside with the Premier League, and we go into academies and you give them loads of different information about all of the things that they do every single day, that the skills that are transferable to other industries, whether that's an accountant, whether that's a firefighter, whether that's I don't know, an estate agent, whatever it is. All of these skills that they have that they do every single day that are transferred. But one of the first slides is it comes up and it says 35% of players in the first year of retiring get divorced, and that's it's quite a horrible statistic. But then the one underneath is 30% of players in the first 5 years of retiring are bankrupt. And and like, for me, in my experience, I'm nearly 5 years, so I'm not bankrupt yet, and I'm not divorced. So fingers crossed. But for me, there isn't enough that gets done about when players retire, because you've had a certain way of life, yes, and that's your own thing. You can pick and choose whatever that. But the biggest thing that I craved and that I've missed is, for 20 odd years, is a routine and a purpose every single day. You wake up every morning, someone tells you where to be, what to bring, what to wear, what time to be there, when to eat. I know it's the very small violin that you're going to put out on me, but that's what you've lived with for 20 odd years. And then suddenly you wake up one morning and you've got nothing. You've got nothing. And you've still got all of the direct debits that are coming out. You've still got all of this. And whether you've done well in football, whether you haven't, whatever you've done, you're still in a position like you're like, oh wow, at some point I really need to get a job. So whether that's, if you're completely fine and comfortable, you still need a job, because you need a purpose. You need something every single day, and that's why for me, I've loved being able to sort of keep the door open to a lot of things. I've done the courses, I do the media and the punditry and the co-commentary, which is amazing. I love that. I do the West Ham stuff. I do the advisory stuff. I do leadership workshops. I go to different companies and help with their leadership teams. I then, what else am I doing? Yeah, so I've got the golf. I'm a director in a golf events company with Heritage and Apex. And so it's really nice to be able to do lots of different things. And also for me, I've got a young family. I've got a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. So I'm still being able to be dad. I'm still able to do the school drop and pick up and be at all of the different events that they have at school. But I'm able to sort of still be involved in a lot of different things. And that gives me purpose. That keeps me, I suppose, on the straight and narrow, keeps me entertained. But also for me, a massive part of what I do is I love working. I love, as in fitness. I love gym. I love all of that. I can't play football anymore. My body says no. But I need that thrill of that release, I suppose. So I'm fortunate. I've got a gym in the house, and I can, if my wife sees me and she's like, kids are stressing you out, and you're like, just go and have half an
Off
hour in
you
the
go.
gym, just woo star in the gym. But that's been my whole life. So that release of going in the
Yeah.
gym, it keeps me sane, and I love it. And having a routine, I love knowing structure, routine, purpose, habits. That's everything that I've lived with for 20 odd years, and I think it's very different. And I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but if you've been in the military and you come out
Yeah,
of the bin of the
exactly.
military, it's so similar. You've got no purpose in life at that point. You need your routine, your purpose, your habits, your everything. So
You're spot on, mate. It is going into civvy world. So basically,
yeah,
if you've been in the military and then you come out of there, literally everything is not done for you, but you know what's expected of you. And from the minute you get up to the minute and then
yeah,
suddenly there's no rules here,
yeah.
and things are very, very different.
I love
It
I love
is
this one as well, because someone go, "Oh, you can do whatever you want. Go and whatever you want," and you're like, "That's a massive spectrum. Can you
yeah,
narrow that down
yeah.
slightly, just for me a little bit?"
That
That's
is
that is
that's
the
quite
really hard
scary.
part. It is,
Yeah,
yeah, because but some people, we mentioned Jody. He'd always know he was an artist when he was playing. He knew he
yeah.
was going to go into that. Other people know that they're going to coach. I've done my badges, but it's not really something I've wanted to do. I love the media and the punditry. I love doing the co-commentary. I love doing that because that was something I did when I played. Not necessarily co-commentary, but I love doing the media, going out, answering all the questions, doing all that. My wife would say I quite like the limelight, so that's probably another thing that I probably like.
I can't
Um,
tell.
but then I love everything else. I've only really got into golf since I finished playing, which I can't understand why I didn't play while I played now. I would be so much better. But then now being involved in that, which is an amazing, we've just come back from St Andrews in Fairmont St Andrews in Scotland last week. We hosted our event up there. Some amazing opportunities and stuff that I can continue to do. And I love mentoring players that we mentioned about. I've got my own individual players. I mentor the Wolves Academy players, and I've been doing that for the last couple of years. And just to be able to give something back, I started to sort of do that to the players that I was towards the end of my career, because you just take on that role anyway, trying to help. And when you see some players succeed and they've taken your advice and they've done something, it's a real
Yeah.
heartwarming moment. And I think that's something for me. If I can just give back and help someone in that way, that's perfect.
I'll ask Hess what he thinks of you when I do get to talk to him,
Please
because
do, yeah, please
yeah,
do.
he's trying to put together a museum for Gillingham. So there's a reason for me to be talking to him as well. Just on all of that. I mean, it's obvious to me that you've got a huge amount of personality. It's obvious to me that you're the kind of person who would be very engaging. It's obvious to me that punditry makes a lot of sense, that public speaking makes a lot of sense, that also being a keynote speaker, being a leadership trainer makes so much sense. And in some ways, Matt Jarvis, the footballer, doesn't have to even feature, because it's Matt Jarvis, the person. And to me, that's Matt Jarvis behind the name Matt Jarvis on the shirt. So you found your next career. You found where you want to be now, and thank you for doing that, because you're going to be changing the lives of a lot of people. Your enthusiasm is coming through. Your passion for what you're doing is coming through, and we mentioned Jody a couple of times. When Jody was talking about art and he was talking about his family and he was talking about the decisions that he made, when he finished playing, it was not a very difficult decision for him. He just went, I want to be with my family. I'm done. I'm here. I've done what I needed to achieve. I went for it. For you, I sort of feel like if you had one job, although there might be a structure and a routine there, it's not enough for Matt Jarvis, 40-year-old anymore, because Matt Jarvis, 40-year-old, is like, I've got a few different things going on here. Are you looking, a really awkward question for you, are you looking to replicate the buzz that you used to get when you're on a football pitch? Or have you got your completely
Yeah,
different
I mean, if I'm, there's not many ex-players that you'll probably speak to, but I miss everything about it. I miss playing. I miss the training. I miss the working out on the pitch. I love the gym work, the hard graft, the changing room. I miss everything about it. I know that I can't play. That obviously, I don't have any regrets in my career. I don't get me wrong. I wish I didn't get injured towards the end, because I feel like I would have played for a lot longer and I would have carried on playing. I missed a lot of like family time. I missed my son when he was born, when I first went to Norwich. So I was injured for a long period. My wife sort of come back down south. I was up in Norwich on my own a lot. So I feel like I sacrificed a hell of a lot when I was there. But that was for a purpose. I was like, I'm not going to give up. I'm not getting told to retire, and Norwich were going to give me money to go. I was like, no, because I want to make this period something meaningful and has a
Yeah.
purpose. So I was like, I'm not going to retire. I want to, if I've given up time away from my son, I'm going to make it worthwhile. And that
Right.
was my sort of mindset. But as far as my wife would love me to just get one job for 9 to 5, but I absolutely not. No, I love everything I'm doing. I don't think I could narrow it down to one particular thing. I enjoy everything about everything that I'm doing, and that's a nice place to be. Yes, it's not full on every single day, so I do have a little bit of flexibility. But for me, I love being busy. I love working. I love either helping or doing something. And
Yeah.
that's why although I have taken up skiing, which you say about trying to replicate something
Yeah.
within football. Obviously, we were never allowed to ski, so I went skiing the
No.
first time last year and absolutely loved it. I was flying after day 2, never skied before day 2. I was up, flying around. So we come back to a week and a half ago. Absolutely loved it. I've been twice. And
It is a
that's
great
the
sport.
only thing that I can get close to flying down a mountain, having a bit of a thrill,
Your
as
knee's
being out on
already
a
messed
football
up,
pitch.
so you can't. You're.
Well, I've got another operation on June, so
Oh dear.
it's just one of them things. But I'll keep
Yeah.
going.
I mean, I I don't have a meniscus left at all, and the thought of going skiing to me would be like, yeah, why not? I mean, literally,
Well,
what harm can it do?
well, that's the thing. I knew I was already had surgery booked in, so I had two knee braces on the same knee. I had no problems. But if I did, then yeah, I'm still booked in for surgery, so it was all good.
That is a good thing. Listen, I'm having a fantastic time, Matt, and I'll chat to you for ages. In fact, we're probably going to meet up on. There's a number of different things that make sense. My audience is non-league, and they're looking at you and they're going, I just would love to have the sort of career that someone like Matt Jarvis has had. I had recently a podcast with Dave Kitson, and Dave came in, and it wasn't so much about his playing career. Every podcast is going to be different, and with him, it
Yeah.
was more about what happens behind the scene. Obviously, because he came out as being the secret footballer, and I was one of the first podcasts afterwards. So big up on that. Hi, Dave. Loved it. When you've got a young player, because it's more for the young players coming through in the non-league. So there's two questions. One is, if you're a young player in the non-league, what advice would you be able to give for them to really make the most of the time that they've got as a young player coming through? And then as a second question would be, if you're a mid-20s player where you're still young, but in football in terms, we know what we mean when we're saying if you're 25, you're not a young player coming through
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
How do you keep motivating yourself? So it's two very different people, but playing in the same team. So if you're a young person coming through, what advice have you got? And 25-year-old, what advice
Yeah.
have you got
Yeah.
on that side?
Well, I think for both, but I'll answer the first one. Sacrifice is dedicating your life to your sport. I've done that from day one. When I was a kid, I did every single sport you could possibly imagine, and I was one of them really annoying kids. I was Surrey champion at swimming, athletics, cross country. I was in the Surrey football team. I did all it, but my goal was always to play football. So when it got to an age, I was always football, 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 and I missed birthday parties, weddings, christenings, whatever it was. I missed it because I was training, and that came first. And it's no surprise that the ones that get to the top are the ones that work the hardest, that train the hardest, that are most dedicated. That
Yeah.
is just you have some people that are just naturally gifted. I get that, but we had a thing up in the change room. I think it was at Norwich's. Uh, talent uh, talent beats hard work when no hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard, and that is that. If I leave
Yeah.
anything with
Makes
that,
sense.
that is what it is all about. Even when I was still playing at the top, I was out practicing. I was going out before training practicing. I was out after training practicing. You look at all of the best players in the world, That's not
Yeah.
because they were just naturally like that. They've worked at it. And that's ultimately, as you're a young player, you dedicate, you work, you recover quicker when you're that age, so you can do more. Your body's not fully developed, so you can manipulate your body. You can go in the gym and do different things. When you're in your mid-20s and you're still in, it's having the mindset. Mindset's huge in football, huge. If you have a good game, you feel on top of the world. You had a bad game, you think it's the end. So it's about trying to stay in that middle ground, not getting too high, not getting too low, and keeping your eyes on the prize. It's what can you do? Like I said to you earlier, what can you do every single day that makes you be the best that you can be? And them little 1%ers, is that eating better? Is that going to bed earlier? Is that doing that extra bit in training? Is that doing doing pre-activation before you go out, recovering afterwards? What is it that you can do every single day that just gives you that edge? And it's what you do behind the scenes when no one's watching. That's the thing that's going to make you a better player. You don't do it when everyone's watching. You do it then, but you also do it when no one's watching. When you're behind the scenes, when if you've got to go to the gym on your own, you do that. People who aren't watching it, that's for you. That is only for you. You're not showing off to anyone else but for yourself.
Thank you. And I that really applies. That last bit definitely applies to people who are coming in, in their mid-20s and things like that. Because you look at what Ronaldo, who's one of those examples. I mean, he started off as a winger like yourself, and slightly different play, but
I was going to say.
as a winger. And then he suddenly realised that he wasn't going to achieve what he wanted to achieve if he didn't convert to what he could actually do. Start scoring goals. He was, he was already in early 20s, not mid 20s. He was early 20s when he started really kicking off. And the work ethic that he had before and after training is a thing that people always talk about. The fact that he would put his nutrition first. The fact that people would be going out doing stuff and he'd be like, "Nope, I can't do that." You saw him when I think there was a bottle of Coke and he just went,
"Yep,
no, thank you," because that's not the way that I have. Bex would, Beckham would go and practice his free kicks time and time again. That goal he scored against Grace, that's not a fluke. That's just practice and practice. And then there's the mindset of actually being able to perform at that time.
Yeah. There's so many different levels and different things. But even like my son says to me, he goes, when he shoots, he goes, "I shot with my left foot. That's my weak foot." I said, "Well, why is it your weak foot?" And he goes, "Oh," I said, "Why is it your weak foot?" And he says, "Oh, it's because I've not kicked it as many times as my right." I was like, "Well, there you go. It's not your weak foot. You just haven't practiced as much as your right as your left." It's simple.
Hang on. What foot did you used to play with most of the time?
So I was right-footed majority until I got to the end of Gills, and then I realised that I can't just keep cutting inside and shooting. I've got to go down the line across the ball, and then I practiced every single day, and then I was both fit. Now I can use either foot equally as well.
Yeah,
although not the right foot at the moment because my knee's buggered.
Yeah, fair enough. So we mentioned golf. We're going to finish on that really, like enjoying life afterwards. What sports apart skiing, golf, gym? Now you mentioned that when you were up and coming, you could have had a choice of sports, and I think some of us are lucky like that, where we just go. It could have been one of many different sports. Darren Goff went to cricket, but you would have been good at football. There's loads of different people who have that ability. What do you do now for fun for yourself? Are you one of those pedal players? And I've tried it; it's actually quite good fun. What do you do for fun?
Yeah, I mean, golf is, although I can classify it as work. I love golf. Also, it's good on my body. Skiing, but only, I mean, I go once a year. I've only been twice, but I will go once a year. I have tried paddle, and I do love it, but at the moment my knee is not letting me play that. So once I've had my op and I've got myself back, I will definitely play more paddle. I think that's probably as much as I will probably do, just because I know my limitations really with my body. I swim and I do whatever, but that's all a bit for fun. I would like to still every now and again play a bit of football in a few charity games and stuff like that, but I've got to pick and choose them because I can't, my body can't handle it these days.
Walk for a few days afterwards.
Well, also there's that, but also once you get on the pitch, it's very different. You can't I can't let it go, and I don't
Yeah.
want to be rubbish, and I want to be able to do what I used to do, and I want to be able to still perform at a high level. So you don't want to go into it, can't move, do this, and everyone goes, he was rubbish. So I've still got a lot of my own, I suppose, vanity that I've got to keep up.
Mate, I do know what I'd never played at the level that you've played, obviously. But the thing is, I supported a charity called Head in the Game, and Head in the Game, a really good charity, getting people involved and actually talking and playing a sport. So they would do like a five-a-side a match, and they asked me to come in and actually to give some coaching. Not a chance. I was on that pitch with my knee brace, and I had the biggest smile I've had for years because I came off it and I was like, I still got it. Thing is, I couldn't walk for about 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
I then realised I still got it. I didn't, and then I thought, yeah, it is one of those where you can't play at that level. But actually, it doesn't matter. You start playing it
Do
for
you know
fun.
what? I'll just have one very short story. A few years ago, Dave Edwards, one of my teammates at Wolves, great guy,
Yeah,
one of my
remember.
really good friends. He had a testimonial game, so he asked all his Wolves players to play against the Shrewsbury lot. And for me, I'd not run for about a year and a half before this game, not run once. I go on the peloton every now and again, but I'd not run. But it's the first time that I was going to able to get both my kids to come and watch, and they've never walked out with me. They've never been at the game, so I was like, this is great. I had my nephew; he came as well, so we all went. I played 90 minutes, right? I scored two, had
Hey,
my kids come out with me, and not no joke. The whistle went at the end of the game, and everyone came on the pitch and was all saying it. I seized up there and then. I could not move. For a week. For a week, I could not move. My ankle was locked. My knee
yeah,
was in. Yeah, and I couldn't. We had to stop because it was up in Shrewsbury, so we had to drive back down that night. And we had to stop at the service. I couldn't move. I couldn't get out of the car. I couldn't move for a week, but it was all worth it. It was so good to have my kids there, come out with me, saw me score. Just yeah,
yeah.
that's the things that you do it for.
It
But
is. It
yeah,
is for
I
those
couldn't
things,
move
isn't
for a week though. That's the
it?
problem.
That's fair. Listen, Matt, thank you so much. Time has flown. I told you how long it was going to last. It didn't. It lasted way longer, but it doesn't really matter. Um, I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the fact that we've had to do a couple of different sort of changes. This morning, Matt's panicking, going, "Have you sent the link?" Yeah, it's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah.
It's coming. It's all good, and really look forward to kind of edits that we've got going on here. Really appreciate your time. I think the audience is going to be taking a lot of information from you as to what it feels like, your emotions, the injuries, because it doesn't. If you're a professional or you're playing Sunday League, you might be in a vets team. You might, you might be an ascend team, and you're finding yourself. This is your focus for that moment, and you've got an injury. Actually, you've got to think about it and go, yeah, this is terrible, but the mindset can help you get through it to a certain extent.
Yeah.
What I picked
Well, I
up from
was
you
very
is,
selfish as well on mine. I
go on.
was like, no, I was being, I suppose, I was being selfish. Yeah, I had to get told to retire, get opportunity for years to go, but I was like, no, I'm playing. No one's going to tell me
Yeah,
when I can retire. Yeah, I had a family in it, but I was a bit more selfish on that side of things, because I wanted it to mean something. All of that
yeah.
sacrifice. That was my thought process anyway.
Well, it makes sense. I think your dedication, I mean, your 1% approach, that's very important. The key takeaways for kids coming through, you have to be selfish, but actually, where's selfish and where's dedication? Where does one end and one finishes? That doesn't make sense. Where's one end and one start? So, you have to be selfish, but is being dedicated a sign that you're being selfish, or actually of you going for your potential? Because ultimately, that's what everyone wants from themselves. So, taking a lot of things out of this. Really appreciate it, Matt, and good luck to you in the meantime. Hopefully, we'll catch up, and I'll come down and see you. You're involved a little bit in the local club setups at all?
Not really. Not really. But I still speak to Woking a fair bit. I go down there. I'm not too far from them, so I go down every now and again. And yeah, I'm still involved in football, still involved in it a lot, in all different aspects. So I don't think I can step away from it. It's
No.
been my life, so I
You've got to
absolutely
go.
love
Do you
it.
know Jermaine at all?
Yeah,
Did you know him before?
yeah.
Right. So that I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what he's going to
Well, he
bring to it.
started well. He
Yeah.
started very well.
So I mean, all the best to him, and all the best to the team down there. Listen, thanks, Matt. Great to chat to you, and yeah, from all of us at Non-League Network, it's been a fantastic podcast. Cheers.